Hello, everyone. Today we have a very special guest. He's been all over social media channels lately. You see his videos all over the city in fancy cars, doing a lot of sports, doing a lot of fun activities, working on a very big project. And finally, he's launched it. And today he's with us to share with us his story. Please help me welcome Omar Al Ashi from Urent. Welcome, Omar.
Thank you so much for having me, Abdurrahman. I'm actually very excited to be here. I was looking forward for this, and please take the lead.
That's great. Okay, so today we wanna. I've seen most of the videos lately that you have been posting. I've seen your effects and influence on social media, and to be honest, that was the main reason that I was like, "Oh my God, I need to meet this person. I need to have him on this show."
Appreciate
But I
that.
want to start a little bit from the scratch. So can you please start from the youngest that you can go back to? You told me that you started your journey when you were 15. Can we
Correct.
start there, please?
So, again, thank you for having me here. So, my entrepreneurial journey started when I was 15. And how it started is because I was raised in a household to where I had three sisters and no brothers. And obviously, my father had this mission to create the perfect child in me. So, obviously, that's how it all started. And at the same time, I had to live up to that expectation. Coming from a Middle Eastern family, I'm sure a lot of people can relate that it's something that it's pushed upon you to be or excel in everything that you do.
Of course.
But unfortunately, I was pretty much failing everything in terms of whatever subject I didn't enjoy, I was failing. Subjects that I enjoyed, I was doing well in, but I was like 55, 60 GPA from 5th grade up until 10th grade, believe it or not. So I wasn't book smart. I was intellectually smart, and I knew that from a very young age. And obviously, in every household, if you wanted the new PlayStation back in the day, or the new tech thing that's releasing, where all your friends were buying, you had to work for it, or you had to get good grades. And
Okay.
obviously, I didn't have good grades. So to me, it was like every time I approached my father, I was like, "Oh, I want to go buy this." And he's like, "Oh yeah, well, you have to earn it to get good grades." And I got tired of it. So I got tired of the fact that I would get the PlayStation when my friends had it like a year before, and they
Yeah.
pretty much are on to the next thing, and I'm still I'm still
But
trying
you
it.
learn to appreciate it more at this
Exactly.
point.
So at a young age, you don't see all that, right?
Of
So
course.
you don't see any of that at a young age, but it's the seed that my dad planted in the way I think. I think that's what really built who I am, and I have him to thank. We're best friends today. I mean, growing up, I always thought like, why is all this pressure being put on me? But now I understand, because otherwise I wouldn't have been equipped with what I have today. So I was 15 years old. It was 11th grade or 10th grade, if I'm not mistaken. And I got a puppy, a dog, as a gift, believe it or not. So
Nice.
I got this puppy, and I was nagging for a puppy my entire life. And my parents never gave me one because they thought I was going to be irresponsible. I was going to take care of it. I was be reckless, which was me growing up. That was me. I had a report book in school. I had to get a signature from every teacher. And then at some point I started forging signatures so that, I wouldn't stay after school. And then I would get caught, and then they'd put me 3 hours detention. And then my parents actually asked the administration to give a weekly report card of my grades.
Wow.
And I used to always have an excuse every Thursday, because back then Thursday was the kind of the last day of the week.
Yes.
So I would get it and then throw it somewhere and then pretend like they never gave it to me. And my parents would come in the next week and were like, my son never received that paper. Like, no, we gave it to him. And that was my life growing up. So I got fed up. I was like, you know what? I'm done. I need to find a way to start buying my own, whatever I want. I wanted to buy whatever I wanted at the time without having to go ask anyone.
But that's one thing, financial freedom at a very young age.
Correct, but I had everything I needed. So, alhamdulillah, I grew up in a very healthy environment, amazing parents. Everything I needed was there, the best education. But at the same time, it was this and that was it until I earned it. And I either earned it through grades. Actually, back then it was just grades, just get
grades,
good
yeah,
grades.
yeah.
So, obviously, the years went by. And then on my 15th birthday, I got a puppy. It was a German Shepherd puppy. And 4 days into owning that puppy, I was like, nope, that's not me. I mean, there's too much cleaning I had to do. I had to wake up early before
Too much
school. I had to walk
responsibility.
him. And I used to clean after him. I mean, you know how it is. So I took him for a walk one day. And I was walking the puppy. Some local individual stopped by and he was like, "Oh, what a beautiful dog. Do you want to sell him?" And I looked at him, I was like, bing, like the light bulbs. I was like, I don't know how much they bought the puppy for. And I, like, it was a gift, but honestly, I didn't care. So I was like, that's my exit. So I threw a ridiculous number. I was like, yeah, sure, 7,000. He looked at me, he's like, 7,000? I can get this for 3 or 4. I was like, well, this is my price, this is what it is. And funny enough, I sold the puppy for 6,000 dirhams.
Wow.
And went back home without a puppy. My dad comes back home and he was like, "Where's the puppy?" I'm like, "I sold him." And my dad was like, "This kid lost it. There's no hope in this kid, This is the last thing I expected, Like, it just never ends with this boy."
Okay.
So I was like, no. Listen to me. I have an idea. He was like, "What's your idea?" It was the BlackBerry days, if you remember. We had a BBM.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to start a business to where, I can buy and sell these because obviously there's a demand.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, I didn't know how it was going to turn out. So, my father never took me seriously. So, I started with buying 2 puppies with the money that I bought. It was Huskies. And then I bought these 2 puppies and then I quickly realized, wow, that's a lot of work for a very low profit margin. I ended up making a profit, but it was like 1,500 on both.
Did you find out how much they paid for the actual German Shepherd?
I didn't. Okay. And the people who gifted me the puppy never actually found out eventually because obviously it was like a family friend.
Okay, makes sense.
Later they found out, but at the time they didn't. So funny thing is, that's how it started. And that's where I started really getting involved in the dog breeding business. And at the time where I found a niche in the market, and the niche was, I was like, I'm tired of these purebred puppies or dogs are expensive. I mean, they sell them for 12,000 in stores, so on and so forth. And my profit margins are low and they're expensive to maintain. I was like, you know what? I want to change my business model. And I'm 15 years old there. So I was like, I'm going to go to these farms that have dogs by default and have these little cute puppies that you don't know what breed they are, but they're cute, And I'm going to cater for the people who don't want to spend too much money on a pet, but want to have a pet for the sake of having a pet, amongst the family. And that's where it started. And I started getting connected to breeders in Ajman, Al Qawain, Ras Khimah. I got very well connected within the year. And I was moving over 50 puppies a month. And we had a storage unit outside the house, like a room, you could say.
Yeah.
And I went to my father and was like, I want to use this room to like store them, like a nursery with an AC to take care of them. He's like, yeah, no problem. You're going to pay me rent. I was like, I'm going to pay you rent. He's like, yeah, you're going to pay me rent.
I love that.
And he made me pay him 5,000 dirhams a month in rent. And that was purely based on I was bringing in 15,000 a week. So 15,000 in profit a week.
Makes sense.
So my father at that point, he was like, he couldn't believe it. He had to actually see what I was doing to actually make sure that I was selling puppies, what I mean? But it was all fun and games. I learned all the nits and grits of business from a young age. So I got scammed. I got given puppies that were sick. I can tell you stories on stories to where I was on the losing side. So the people I was dealing with were like 30, 40 people. So when you see a kid, at some point, I built a persona to where they respected me, believe it or not. So by the time I was 17, so I did that from 10th grade to 12th grade.
Okay.
So and all the money I used to make is to give to my father. My father opened like a sub bank account and they kept it all from me. I never counted the money. I was just like, give him. And believe it or not, the funniest thing is when I had the money, I didn't go out and buy PlayStations or nothing.
I actually wanted to ask you that.
I just went back investing all of it back into the business. So I became obsessed with the concept of business. So I lost interest in everything my friends were doing. So when you go to computer cafes and play games, I was out there dealing and buying and selling and dropping to clients and meeting clients. I was in class closing deals. Like I used to use my phone, go to the bathroom, close 2 deals, go back home, meet with them, boom.
Wow.
My profit margin was anywhere from 80 to 200%, depending on. So I'd look at the client. I would look at.
You profile them basically.
I'd profile them, and obviously, I dropped my margin down to around 40 dirhams per puppy at some point. So obviously they're mixed breeds, and if in these farms, they're just left there,
Exactly. It's
and
a
they
volume.
and
It's
they
a volumes game.
exactly, and they give them away anyway. So I was like, might as well put them in a home to where they're gonna be loved, versus them just living in a farm their entire life or being given away, becoming stray dogs. So I felt like there was a blessing with that, believe it or not, to where I was taking these puppies that were in farms and I was putting them in homes, and for a very reasonable price. It never exceeded 1,000 dirhams a puppy.
So
So
I personally, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
I personally have a thing against people purchasing and paying a lot of money to pure breed dogs when you have a lot of mixed breeds out
correct,
there that
and
basically
adoption,
need a home.
and adoption
Exactly.
as well. Correct.
Exactly.
But believe it or not, even when you adopt a dog, you have to pay a fees to the adoption.
Yes, 100%.
So and that fees is like the vaccination fees, the passport fees, and it's usually around 1,000.
Yeah.
So to me, it was like rather than go through that, I used to get them, vaccinate them, get them passports.
Nice.
I had like a clinic who I made a deal with, and I used to do in volumes. And for 120 dirhams at the time, I would get him microchipped, vaccinated,
Nice.
all the things that they needed so that they would be immune to any virus. Because it obviously dogs are like they're animals, right? So
Yes.
they're vulnerable at a young age to a lot of disease, and so I was taking full care of them and giving them a good environment until they were, I found a home.
I
for
like
them.
that.
Long story short, I kept doing that, and then I built a very big clientele. And obviously, being, 6 months old is when I came to Dubai. So I was pretty much born in Dubai. I don't remember anything prior to that.
Of course.
So I have a lot of local friends, and obviously, blending in with them, they eventually became clients at some point. And obviously, speaking their language, I was able to also build clientele of GCC nationals who, at some point, when I went to Toronto, I still had these high end clients. By the time I graduated high school, I've already, I made net around $200,000, and went to Toronto. Kept doing it for another year, but I was shipping dogs at this point, and it was just not worth it. It was a lot of work, a lot of headache, and I wanted to move on. So my next obsession became motorcycles. So I ride bikes, obviously,
Okay.
the sport bikes,
Yeah.
the fast ones, and obviously living with my parents.
Which bike?
I have a CBR 1000.
Wow. That's a lot of power.
Yeah,
That's a lot of power.
it's tuned as well. But in Toronto as well, I had the GSXR 750, I had an R6, an R1, and I pretty much started a business out of it. So what I did was I bought my first bike. It was my first opportunity to buy a bike. So I was like, my parents are not here. I'll buy one. I have my freedom. You know what I mean? So I bought that bike. And I bought a CBR 600 RR. So it's 600cc, and this bike tops 300 kilometers an hour. And I didn't know how to ride a bike.
No.
Yeah, I bought it without even knowing how to ride
And
one.
that was your first bike.
That was my first bike. And long story short, I got my license the weekend after, rode the bike, and then I just didn't like the way it rode. Like I was like, this is not what I expected. So I decided to sell it. And I bought it in winter. So when I bought it in winter, I bought it for like $4,000, and it was an '08. So when I came to sell it in the summer, and I was, checking the Dubizzle of Toronto, it's called Kijiji at the time.
Price goes up, yeah.
The price they were selling for double. And I was like,
It's the season.
Something's wrong, And then I studied, and like you said, it's a season. So there's a long winter in Canada, 6 months, you could say, before you can actually ride a bike, because there's salt on the ground.
Yes.
It's dangerous to ride until everything's cleared, so on and so forth. So what ended up happening was I studied the market, used all my capital, and started flipping bikes. I started buying them,
All your capital.
all my capital. I ended up buying 20 bikes, 20 to 23 bikes. And I was living in an apartment. I rented 2 parking spots, and I used to just stack them there. I would buy them, some in poor condition. I'd fix them. I'd order like a fairing kit, a new fairing kit or new body, which I sourced from Alibaba at the time. And I used to order the like Red Bull edition, Racing edition,
Nice.
Repsol edition, like the cool ones.
Yeah.
And I would like polish the bike and sell it in the summer. So my profit margin was anywhere from 40 to 50% per bike.
Nice.
But again, doing that business, that obviously led to bikes getting stolen, I got robbed on gunpoint once.
Oh.
So I was going to sell someone a bike, pointed a gun at me, and he's like, "I'm gonna give me the bike." He took the bike, and funny enough, 3 months later, the police called me. They're like, "Yeah, we found your bike," but they're like, "You may want to get a tow truck." I was like, "Okay, if you may, and the bike may have, still something there to sell."
Yeah, exactly.
By the time I saw the bike, it was without an engine, just a frame and wheels.
Oh my
So
God.
I just sold it as scrap. But you go through these, and I was again 20 years old at the time. I would obviously. There were times where I riding, crashed the bike, bike's totaled. So like I went through the different types of losses in the business, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed every minute of it because, like I said, my friends were partying. I was going to my classes as an engineer. Obviously, engineering was not easy by no means, and I really had to work hard. By the time I was back in Dubai,
Okay, before we come back to Dubai,
Yeah.
now there's two very important questions
Tell
that I
me.
want to understand. Can you tell us what were the key lessons that you learned from your first business at the age of 15, which was basically with the dogs? And the second lesson, and also, sorry, two more lessons that you've learned from trading bikes in a different country where you basically didn't have a lot of knowledge about the market, about the risks. There was no risk management. There was no business plan. It was basically just you saying, I want to do this. I know how to make money out of it. I'm going to keep going. So I understand that it's very, at this age, it's very normal to say, okay, I want to do this. I'm going to do it. I know how to make money. As long as I make money, it's perfect. We don't think of business plans. We don't think of financial plans, risk management, blah, blah, blah. All that doesn't exist. But what lessons did you learn from those experiences that helped you later become who you are today?
very good question. So here's the thing that people need to understand is money is a very dangerous thing to have at a such young age in that amount because it can destroy you. So I obviously owe a lot to my parents for raising me a certain way, teaching me these simple things in terms of ethics and what's good and what's bad and the different paths to take in life. That's something I held on to very dearly because I had too many opportunities being, especially in Canada, being exposed to that, how can I tell you, freedom. I had the chance to do a lot of other things and get involved in a lot of other things that would have obviously put me in a very dark place. Let's just put it this way. So I think the most important lesson is to staying true to yourself. I think for me it was knowing that there's a higher power that's watching everything you do and believing in the law of karma, obviously, and at the same time business in general, you don't need to study. Like I don't believe in studying business. And I remember I'll touch base on this later, but business is something you learn only by experience. So I think the biggest lesson I learned, or maybe a few lessons that I learned from starting a business at a young age, is that you're living in a world, especially in business, where it's a man eats a man. There's no one who
It
has your
is.
back. You know what I mean? When you're transacting with strangers, there is no trust. You have to put trust off the table. You have to make sure that the only one looking after you is you. So that's one of the key things. Not trusting anyone because, and again, it's hard. It's hard because sometimes you feel inclined to trust people in business, and at the same time, sometimes you get away with it. Sometimes you pay for it. You know what I mean? So that risk is something over the years that I kind of like eliminated. So I was like, I'm not willing to risk, even if 50% chance that it's going to be a successful transaction by trusting you. I'm not going to risk it because I've encountered a lot of different incidents to where I would beat myself up and I'd go like, man, I should have. So another lesson is listen to your intuition. I'm a big believer of intuition. Obviously, it's your internal compass. So whenever you're around someone or you're in it and something doesn't feel right, it's nothing to do with you. Some people take it as something's wrong with me, like it's probably nothing, but no. Intuition is something that it's a sixth sense. That's a gift from
Energy.
From, yeah, it's a gift from God, and that is something that helps you steer. But the problem is not a lot of people are aware of it. You know, for the most
That's
part.
true. Not a lot of people listen to their gut intuition, especially when it comes
or
to.
believe in it. See, that's another
That's
thing.
very true.
Yeah, a lot of people don't
That's very
believe in it.
true.
They see all these holistic people and like, to talk about manifestation and law of attraction. It's like, no, these guys are like, they're Lulu. Like they're a different planet. But, I embarked on my spiritual journey when I started my businesses. So
Nice.
from the first business up until this business, it just made me more aware of my surroundings, of energies, interacting with people, human psychology, body language, human behavior, tones. Like today, I sit with someone, man. I'm dissecting him without even him knowing. It's
That's how it should be.
maintaining eye contact. If he switches positions when I'm talking, if I ask him a certain question, how he reacts. These are all things that you learn to pay attention to,
100%.
and you only learn it by getting screwed over, excuse my language. So you start seeing patterns.
True.
It's a pattern thing. So
100%.
you see some person who acts a certain way, you go like, oh, this guy's acting like that guy I dealt with back in the day. And 99% of the times, you're
Trust.
right. You're
Trust.
right. You're
Immediately
right.
trust it.
Because I'm trusting my gut instinct. So, and again, regardless, I think one of the most important skill sets to have in business is not being impulsive, because emotions is the most dangerous kind of aspect of a human being that can either make or break him. Because if you don't have your emotions intact, if you don't have your emotions under control, you can either turn out to be someone people look at you as, oh, this guy's emotional, this guy cannot mixes business with emotions, or you start projecting more feminine energy versus masculine energy, because emotions really are tied to feminine energy. If you look at it, anything to do with emotional triggers is a feminine trait, whereas masculines are, we feel all these feelings, but we have them tucked in and like behind curtains, and we deal with them on our own. But projecting them, that's a feminine trait. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
So once you learn these things, you start really paying attention to everything you do and say.
Okay, I personally went through an experience, I think 2 weeks ago, and I sat down and I received an advice against it. They were like, Abdurrahman, you're always very impulsive when it comes to, if you want something, you go after it and you have to get it, and you don't tolerate anybody standing in your way. This is wrong. What you need to do is that you need to be more diplomatic. If one person is annoying you or bothering you about something, it doesn't mean you need to go against them and run them down. It means you need to put your ego down, put your anger down, learn to just get along till you get what you want, and then kick them out of the scene.
Correct. Look, I'm very glad you brought this up. So here's the thing. I can go about this in too many different angles. So angle one is, I'm gonna go back to, because everything you're saying, I was extremely impulsive. I had a very bad temper issue, especially in business. And what I realized, and where it all changed for me, is it all rooted back. The problem was me. The problem was never the people. So I'm gonna go back to your story, but I'm gonna touch base on how I
Please do.
see this whole game of life. How I live it. The moment I started investing in self-love, meaning I started putting myself first, not only like by self-love, loving myself as buying myself stuff and no, pampering myself, no. Self-love as in looking at my internal, like when I call it, like if I had any childhood trauma, childhood deep-rooted things that are causing triggers for me now, So you have to understand every trigger that basically gets you, feeling some type of way, a negative feeling where you're like either annoyed or agitated,
100%.
is something that's inside you that needs healing. So once you start healing yourself,
I'm having goosebumps right now, I swear to God.
so once you start working on yourself, and this is 4 years ago, this is when I really locked in that spiritual side of myself, and I started noticing that my anger came from childhood. When I grew up, I obviously had so much that I wanted to do, but obviously I was this much was expected of me, and I used to always rage because it's like there's something inside me that wanted to unleash, but I couldn't because obviously I need to live up to certain expectations, whether it came from my parents or in school or in grades or whatever. So, and honestly, the if you want to know the trauma that you carry from an early age, get into a relationship. When you're in a relationship with someone, that's when everything surfaces. And that's why you see some really bad breakups or you go through, and that's why you need to go through relationships. Either, not necessarily.
Tell me more.
Not,
No.
not,
Tell
not,
me more about this.
not necessarily, look, man-woman relationship, that's one thing, but business relationship is another thing. So man and man, when they're working together, everything is handy and dandy in the beginning. Down the line, problems start happening. These problems only happen because this guy feels some type of way and this guy feels some type of way, and now they're projecting trauma across each other. You know what I mean? So there's no alignment. And that's because both of them are not healed. You know what I mean? So now I've gotten to the point where I've healed myself enough. Obviously, it's an everlasting journey, but I can pick up while interacting with people whether they're healed or not. And if they're not, I try and steer away.
Okay.
Because I know that I can't change them, I can't heal them, I can't fix them.
There's nothing you can do about it.
They can only do that with themselves. So what I started doing is exactly what you just said. Your friend said, put on that persona, get what you want, and then obviously dip. I used to do that, but then my energy kept getting sucked with person because I was dealing with these people. You know what I mean? To the point where I was like, is there anyone out there that's healed? You know what I mean?
No.
That's what I thought. Until I went on a solo journey for 3 years. No relationship, no friends, no social circles. It was just me. I had a routine that was so brutal where I lost a lot of friends. And I'm not sad I lost these friends because
You won yourself.
exactly.
That's more worth it.
I was on my path trying to build something for myself, and instead of anyone standing in my way, it wasn't really anyone standing in my way. It's like anyone who didn't like the fact that I was on that journey isn't supposed to be on my journey. Does that make sense to you?
100%.
So to me, today it's got to the point where if I interact with someone for any reason, if I want to do business with them, if I want to become friends with them, I meet a lot of people every day. I can sit on a table and tell you after having dinner which guy I think I'm going to have a good relationship with and which I probably will never see again. You know what I mean? And they would never know. That's the beauty of having all that intact internally. Because I could hate your guts, my brother. Not hate your guts, just hate being around you and your energy. And you think I love you. Does that make sense? I would give you the impression.
That's the right way.
Yeah. So the beauty of this game, and all comes down to one common denominator. It's emotions. Once you have your emotions under control, someone can do whatever they want to push every button you have. And you'd be in a position where you'd go like, man, I feel bad for you. Versus, and like, for example, if I'm put in a position with someone's projecting that energy, I just look at them and go like, yeah, are you done? Is that everything? I think you need help. Like, I was like, I think you need to go talk to someone. Feel like you have a lot inside you. And I'm calm. I'm operating from a very calm place.
But doesn't that put any pressure on you, emotional as well?
No. Believe it or not, it used to, but the more you practice it, I am at a point in my life, brother, today. Put me alone for the rest of my life, I'll be happy. So that whole human codependence, a lot of people are codependent. So you could have two friends. One is codependent on the other for a reason, and the other is codependent on the other for a reason, and they both don't even know it.
Yes.
So for example, let's just say I live in a big villa, okay? I have a games room. I have like a man's cave, or man's cave where PlayStations, billiardo, all that cool stuff. You live in an apartment, let's just say, as an example. And then we go through that routine where every weekend it's at my place. That's what we do as boys. Everyone come to my place. So with time, if I don't invite you on a certain weekend,
You
and
don't
you
talk to me
found,
anymore.
and you find out that I invited others, you would take it personal. You would get pissed. You're like, why the fuck didn't you invite? You know, that's when you start building codependence on each other without knowing it.
Believe it or not, I've been through this until a very good friend of mine came up to me and told me, you, after 6 years of being with a specific group,
Yeah.
he comes to me and he's like, you need to get rid of those leeches.
Thank you. Energy vampires. That's what I call
I'm
them.
like, what do you mean, man? They're my friends. We spend like the entire weekends together. He's like, they're always at your house. You guys are always swimming in the pool, playing PlayStation, watching movies, going out partying. Your place is their place.
Correct.
Why aren't you doing this at theirs?
Correct.
And I'm like, because their place is small. They're
Yeah.
like, that's not an excuse.
Yeah, 100%.
They're leeches, just feeding off you. Try not
100%.
talking to them for a week and see what happens.
100%.
And I actually tried it. And guess what? Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. And since that day, I promise you, I'm not joking, man. It's been almost 4 years.
Yeah.
I haven't raised the phone call once to call any of them or even text them. I don't want it.
And honestly, that's when I can tell you, bro, you're on the right path. Because to me, it's look, people are great. You know, people are to me, they're always going to be around you. You know, you have to get, you have to, and obviously, you need people around you. You know, it's not like, but the dependency part is what you have to get rid of. Is the expectation. So expectation is the root of all evil.
True.
Okay, they tell you money is the root of all evil. Expectation is the root of all evil. Because when you start expecting things from others,
And you don't get it.
that's
you
you're
react
planting seeds for just internal how can I say, like hatred, or you start building hatred, you know what I mean? So not hope, no. Like for example, if I got you a nice watch for your birthday,
Okay.
my birthday comes about, you buy me a nice vase, like a vase or a plant.
Okay.
Thank you, bro. Thank you so much. And I'm at home before I sleep. I'm like, why? How that? This
Exactly.
guy, like actually got me a vase. I got him a watch. That, my friend, is the problem with the world. Is setting expectations. Because even as simple as lending someone money, if you lend someone money, okay, I am the type of guy. If I give someone or lend someone to help someone, I don't want it back, because I'm setting an expectation. Meaning, if he doesn't pay me back, I'm gonna be pissed. I'm gonna lose the friendship.
Exactly.
So setting an expectation is what destroys relationships. But unfortunately, there's no way, especially in today's world, to convince people that. So you have no choice but to go on your own. And alhamdulillah, like I'm at a point in my life where I have 5-6 people in my life that are an exact copy of me.
That's
You
more
start
than you
attract,
need.
you start attracting people like you. Start attracting you and other people, and it's crazy because for example, if I had simple good traits, you know, and how I noticed how life works with you when you're on that path is, for example, I'd meet someone over dinner for the first time. He knows nothing about me. Okay, we're having dinner, we're talking, we're having conversation. He says, "Oh, by the way, I do this on weekends. I do this on a daily basis. I send this every now and then." And in your head, I was like, "What the fuck, man? I do exactly these things." And then it's like, "No way, bro! I do the same thing." I was like, "No way!" And then you start understanding that this is kind of what I like to call your soul tribe. So there's a soul tribe to where people that are in alignment with you.
So it's your vibe attracts your tribe,
Exactly.
right?
And these people are people I can not even text for 3 months, but I text on the 4th and they're like, "Hey, Habibi, what do you need? I'm here." They're busy with their own life. They understand I'm busy with my own life. There is no, why did you not call me? Why did you not
Exactly.
invite me? All that feminine energy. You see what I mean?
Got you.
The problem with this world is it's hard to find masculine men. I'm talking purely about men. A lot of masculine men are projecting feminine traits and feminine energy. So men that create drama, bro, leave that for the feminines.
Yeah.
Us men, we're not supposed to be having arguments and negotiate. Obviously, when it comes to arguments, if it's not extremely civil and professional, like I've sat, for example, in my long business journey, I used to throw tantrums when I was young. So I had all these traits that I'm telling you about. But once I started noticing how was this destroying my life and pushing people away, I knew something was wrong. So when I started paying attention to it, we could have a problem that can destroy to a friendship. But then I managed to conclude it in the most civil manner, and it's a mutual kind of interaction. So obviously you wouldn't be interacting with someone on that level if that's someone who backstabbed you, have hurt you, have done something unforgiving. I'm saying little problems here and there, like I asked you to get this done, you didn't get it done. Why didn't you get it done? For example, when you work with someone in business, oh brother, I had this. Don't worry, I'll get it done today. I was like, okay, brother, but you have to understand, if we don't get this done today, I can't work with you. In that tone. You see how I was talking to you?
Yeah.
See that tone? Like, man, I love you, but I can't work with you, man. I have my own stuff going on. Like, that tone is what I'm trying to tell you is a masculine tone. It's just like, man, it's all good. It's all good. I understand you got your own things going on. You've done something that, hindered my business, but it's okay. I understand. People make mistakes. It's that operating from that place
Gotcha.
versus that aggression, impulsive, ego, man. Ego is so destructive. It's so destructive. And I lost my ego a long time ago. I would say 3 years ago through encounters, I lost my ego. And I feel like successful people who are happy and content with themselves don't have an ego. Because you start noticing that ego is nothing more than insecurity.
It is.
It's the biggest insecurity.
It is.
So if someone has to prove something to someone, it means there's a little voice inside him that's saying, oh, you're not good enough. You have to show him you're good enough. Whereas I've sat on tables where people would tell me, you don't know what you're doing. I don't know how you're here. Everything you're doing is stupid. I go like, yeah, really? Thank you so much, bro. If that makes you sleep better at night, then everything I'm doing is absolutely ridiculous.
So I want to ask you a question about that. So I've recently been encountering a new representatives with one of my partners for one of my businesses.
Correct.
Okay, and he called me 3-4 times over the phone, and I didn't over a course of a week, and I didn't answer his call.
Okay.
To be honest, I was busy. You know, I'm running 3 different businesses, so I didn't call him. I'm like, forget about it.
Yeah.
Next time we meet for our monthly meetings, he's like, hey man, I called you. Why didn't you answer? I'm like, sorry, I'm busy. Like, do I have to answer your call? Like, why are you taking this too personal? He's like, listen, I represent the owners, so you need to collaborate with me and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, listen, I'm a 50% owner. You're an employee. Don't talk to me this way. And then he's like, but we need to communicate. I'm like, no, we're not going to communicate. We meet once a month. If you have something to discuss with me, you can discuss it. Aside from that, I'm sorry if I don't answer your phone. I'm busy. But then if there's something urgent, you should let me know. You can notify me. And then I'm like, you know what? I think I would speak to the owners directly from now onwards. And then he's like, oh, if you try contacting them, you're going to keep going around and you're going to come back to me. I'm like, what do you mean I'm going to come back to you? He's like, yeah, because I'm the one responsible for all the business now. And then he started going to them and creating stories about me not doing things right in a certain way that they actually had to question how I'm actually operating the business. How do you describe such behavior?
This is my life, my friend. But you just said it's my entire life, and it's I'll tell you later, but let's just go. I'll give you actually my story so that you can relate.
Okay, please.
When I first started my business, Urent, I used my own personal money to fund it. I signed with a partner, not mentioning names. I got robbed for $1 million. Okay, and that $1 million was partially my money, partially my friends who invested with me.
Okay.
So obviously, we're at a time where it took me 3 years and a bankruptcy to launch my business. I lost all my money. Wow. Almost twice, but the second one, obviously, alhamdulillah, things turned out to be fruitful, of which I already expected. This is the thing, I expected it. So you have to understand that in such situations, what I learned is you cannot stop someone from doing anything. So in my situation I give you is these guys invested money with me, and they're like, Omar, okay, this guy who promised you to get you the license, or whatever, um, it's not working out. We put our money, like, what's gonna happen now? My response with them was like, bro, when the day comes where the ship entirely sinks, come talk to me. From now till then, please
Exactly.
don't talk to me. When the day comes where Anjad, like really, your money's gone, then you can come and see what
But
you
stop
want.
manifesting it and feeding me negative energy.
And needless to say, some took it okay, some didn't take it okay. I didn't care. I genuinely did not care. Because I knew the more I cared, the more I was draining myself. Oh, is he thinking about this? What if he's thinking about that? What if he spoke to him? What if he spoke? And that was exhausting, man.
I know.
You know what I mean? And guess what? That's the work of the devil. See, I met someone very wise back in my day. And it was a year ago, actually, back in my day. 1 year. I feel like I'm 70 years old. I met someone and he told me, I want to give you an ideology. Every human being has one angel and 9 demons attached. What are the 9 demons? Greed, hatred, any negative, lying, stealing. All these voices that are negative are demonic. It's from a demonic source. You know what I mean?
True.
And obviously, in every religion, we have a common denominator. There's a devil and there's an angel. You know, there's the one
Yes.
who's enforcing the bad and there's one enforcing the good. It's in every human. So, my friend, the moral of the story here is the fact that when you embark on any journey in your life, you're going to encounter demons in people. That's how I started looking at it. So, when I start seeing such behavior from people, there's 2 options. Either I feed into it, so I'm giving the demon what he wants, or I ignore. They call them waswas, right?
Yes.
You're supposed to ignore it
Yeah.
and keep going. For example, in your case, you have to go through me. Oh, brother, I'm not going to go through you. If you want to go pave the entire ocean, then maybe I'll go through you. Do whatever you want. You're not happy? Do whatever you want. The more you show, the less you speak. Less is more. You see the term less is more?
Yeah.
Is the less you speak, the more power you have. Believe it or not. Silence is the most powerful answer, they say. Silence is the most powerful answer. If I react, I'm giving you the blessings that I'm triggered. If you say something and I don't react, you will be beating yourself up. What angle should I go next? What should I use? Okay, what if I go this way? What if I... So you're now living rent-free in someone's head. And you're winning. You see what I mean? I've been through encounters where, just like you, I was concerned about what he thought. I was concerned about what he thought of me for the most part. It's like, man, I'm a good guy. I have to prove to him that I'm a good guy. And what ended up happening is I started becoming the bad guy trying to prove that I'm a good guy. Because then I stopped tolerating it. I started having like fights with them, arguing with them. And then eventually I learned, I was like, you know what? I'm going to block all this noise because it's not helping me emotionally. It's not helping me mentally. It's slowing me down. You know what I mean? So what I can tell you in all situations, if these things happen, A, you're doing something right. You're on the right path. You have to understand, there's no way you're on the right path if there's no problems in your life, my friend. If you have no problems in your life, if you have no people talking about you, if you don't have people that hate you, you're not a person that is of influence or of value for the topic of you to come on their tongues. You know what I'm trying to say? Yeah, and you have to understand that to this day, I get, oh, by the way, there's this guy in Jordan. He's not even, I don't even know him. He's talking about me. And I was like, wow. I was flattered, man. Even if it was a negative way, I was like, wow, man, amazing. People are talking about me in a negative way who don't even know me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, I must be doing something right. The minute you adopt this personality, man, the people who hate you will end up liking you. Does that make sense?
Gotcha.
I've been in a situation, bro, where I know, like I come across people who I know have talked about me. I've never met them, but subhanAllah, the encounter happens and I meet with them, and boy, oh boy, are they kissing ass. Excuse my language. You know what I mean?
Of course.
They're like can I do anything for you? And I'm like just laughing inside between us, like, wow, man, you really are a keyboard warrior. You know, there's like, you know,
But
these keyboard
that's
warriors.
now.
Yeah.
Where were those people when you were down? You told me you had a few.
Oh, look, I'll tell you what I encountered. So what I encountered was me 2017. I came back to Dubai.
Okay.
I was set in stone in building Urent.
Okay.
Urent did not have a license to operate.
So you came to Dubai with the idea of Urent, or you
Correct.
came here, settled down, and then decided to start that?
No. I already built the prototype of the user interface of my
Okay.
platform while I was in university.
Why?
Because I was using an app called Turo. I don't know if you're familiar with Turo.
No.
So Turo is a Canadian startup. Now it's global. They're valued at 2 billion. Was the first concept that released peer-to-peer car sharing. So you can rent
Okay.
your car, your personal car.
Okay.
A private car sharing. So private car rentals.
Okay.
P2P. So I was, when I was using the concept back in 2011, 2012, you could rent a Porsche 911, but 2009 for like $150 a day. You know what I
Wow.
mean? But from the owner. It was
Okay.
directly from the owner.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, this is brilliant. Like, what I need to do this in the UAE. So obviously, I started just for fun, building my own kind of version, designing my own version of this app called Urent. Came back to Dubai, man. I was the young, naive, gullible individual, 21, 22 years old, fresh out of. I did my master's in entrepreneurship and leadership. So I had my kind of first-hand experience building an app because that was my master's course.
Yeah.
I worked with 3 other engineers to build an app that was supposed to eliminate TAs or teacher assistants in bio and chem labs. So instead of having a TA paying them $50 an hour to be in a lab for 3 hours, monitoring students,
Yeah.
we built a product that would interact. So we put beacons in each area in the room of the lab. You come close to a workstation, sends you a message.
Okay.
Please
got you.
proceed by putting on your gloves and putting on your goggles. So beacons, QR codes, all that, I've had first-hand experience. I worked with back-end engineers, so coders. So I learned a lot from them as well. So that was kind of like the final straw. We're like, okay, if I was able to do this and hand it to a real client, we actually sold it to a real client who's now implementing it across Canada. I was like, man, there's no way you can convince me to go work on a desk job, you know, like 9 to 5. Especially having made all this money, man. I came back, I had $1 million dirhams liquid. I was 21, 22, you know. Didn't think of buying a car, didn't think of flaunting.
Nothing.
Man, I was living a very conservative life in Toronto either. Like, yes, I was living comfortably, but no splurging, none of that stuff, man. And I was a
No bottles in
businessman,
the
bro.
clubs,
No,
none of that.
None of that. Not only that, like even when we went clubbing, it was never under my expense. It was like a birthday or an occasion. I just never like. Yes, maybe first 2 years of life that was like the scene, but I quickly lost interest. I was like, man, what am I doing with my life? Like this is not me. So. And that's because I followed my compass. I followed the inner compass because like I believe everyone on earth is destined for something.
100%,
They have a
100%.
purpose. But the problem is some people are just completely ignorant of the concept of having a purpose or the concept. They think life is a 9 to 5 job, saving for a full year for vacation, saving for tuition.
Slavery, basically.
Really, it is. You know, like you're literally an employee versus taking. And again, here's why I don't blame them, my brother. I don't blame them because security. But if you want to follow your purpose, that comes with a price. That's what I'm trying to tell you. A purpose comes with a price, and that's kind of the saying I tell all my friends. And the price is you don't know what the price is until you start.
100%.
You know what I mean? So. I started this business 2017. In my head, 1 year I'll launch the business. 2017 starts, mid 2017. I started hiring developers to develop the product. The license did not exist. The licensed activity of marketplace rentals for vehicles did not exist.
Okay.
So the reason why I partnered with X person is so that they could or claim to have the ability to get me the license.
Gotcha.
Obviously, that didn't happen. But that didn't happen after a year of thinking it was going to happen and bringing other investors on board.
Operational expense for a full year.
So we're 800,000 dirhams deep into the project right now. And then we get told there's no license. And I have obviously three of my friends who invested at this point. So it was a sink or swim. My whole journey of launching the business was a sink or swim moment. Because then I obviously had to depart from this, because I knew there was nothing I was going to get out of this person. Just say the exit was not easy. So we had to, take legal precautions and matters, which cost me money. I eventually had to start from scratch, set up a whole new company. So that was another 150,000, 140,000 with legal fees. Until I got to the point where it was end of 2018 at this point. So 2 years deep, imagine 2 years deep into building this business. Obviously, the people that were involved with me were people that I'm thankful for, but I'm not going to tell you they haven't doubted me. They doubted me many times along the way. They're like, does this guy know what he's doing? Like, because obviously it's like I was going through a path, the whole world was against me. Everything, like I would apply for this, it got rejected. I talked to this person, no. It was like no's and rejections for 3 years. You know what I mean? That's what people don't see. That's what people don't want to see. And a lot of people say, oh, I want to become an entrepreneur. Man, it's no lavish life, my friend. It's painful. It's really painful, especially in the early stages when you're trying to build what you want to build and put that into reality. The only difference is you just become a person who's accustomed to handle it. Nothing changes.
They say an entrepreneur is a person who can jump off a plane and build a parachute on the way down.
Exactly. So you don't waste time dwelling, man. Like, not once did I waste time dwelling. Like, why me? That victim mindset. That's what destroys people. It's like I couldn't start a business because I didn't have money. Because they always have an excuse, man. Sit with anyone, ask them, why didn't you build a business? Oh, well, because I got married, and then because and this. Why don't you go to the gym, man? I don't have time because.
Excuses. Sorry, we all have the same 24 hours a day.
Exactly, man. Exactly. So at the end of the day, and you just let them be, man. Let them be. You can't argue with these people. Just let them be. Tell them, oh, okay, man, I hope you have time. Khalas, inshallah, things will change in the future. But with me living it firsthand, 2018 comes to an end. We're now into 2019. Yalla, I'm now at least on my own, doing this thing. Still, I was in the RTA, man, for 8 months in a row. Every week, 3 times a week, I was in their office. 8 months. Do you understand what 8 months is? Like, it got to the point where there's a lady called Sahar. God bless her soul. I'll never forget her. Who works at the RTA. She saw me. She was like, do you work here? I was like, no, I don't. But please, can you sit with me for a minute? She's like, why? I see you here every day. What are you doing here? I was like, please, let me and I was like, showed her the concept, showed her the idea. And by God's grace, man, she was like, you know what? I'm going to help you. And within 2 months, they issued the license.
Wow.
Yeah, but that obviously now we're in February of 2020.
I get a
call. I get a call from Sahara. License has been issued. Congratulations. I was driving back home. I'll never forget the picture in my head of when I got out of the call. My dad was sitting next to me. So I was sitting with my dad and telling him, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. And at this point, me and my father, he was a mentor. He was a figure that I needed to kind of let off all that steam. And he was always the person that heard me, but never interfered, because I told him, do not interfere. I don't want your money. I don't want your involvement. I want you just to be there, like when I need you. And I got the call, and he was happier than I was that we got the license. And I had just enough money, Abdurrahman, to take the business to the point where I could raise more money and launch it.
Okay.
It was around 150,000 dirhams.
Okay.
And then April comes around, I get a call from the RTA, lockdown, where you cannot operate until we tell you. They even shut down all the car rental companies at that point.
Yeah, I remember that.
So I was like, wow. Like at this point, man, it was...
One more hit, please, just one more.
I didn't know what to do, man. Because at this point, I had 2 employees left, full stack developers. I built a team of 10 eventually, and then I had to fire them, and I had to start from scratch. And then I had these 2 main guys that started with me, the developers. And I was paying them 8,000 to 10,000 a month. Like it wasn't. The tech stack that I'm using is not cheap. I'm using a very, very advanced tech stack. So talking MongoDB, Node.js, React.js, React Native, all that is Facebook, LinkedIn technology. So you're not talking HTML, PHP. You know what I mean? Yeah. So long story short, lockdown comes around, and I'm like, you know what? It became funny at this moment. I was like, wow. And here is when the devil came at me full force, my friend. I was like, maybe isn't meant for me. You see what I mean? It's when you're this close, that's when the devil and his whole gang comes and they're like, yo, we gotta stop him. Because you have to understand, whenever you're close to a breakthrough, that's when the opposing force tries to stop you. Because what's the goal of that energy, or that is to keep you where you're at?
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
You're fine, you're okay, that whole everything's okay, everything's fine, we're happy. No, habibi, you're meant for so much more. It's just that you're being silenced by an unseen force. You know what I mean? So with me, it was like, at this point, man, it was the darkest of darkest days. I can tell you, the darkest days of my life. 2020 was the worst year of my life, really. Came, I had just enough money. That money, I ended up, November, December comes about, they lift off the lockdown. RTA calls me, okay, now you can go, you can operate. I was like, Bakir, I was 1.6 million in debt.
In debt.
So 1.6 million, including my own personal funds. So like, I lost all my money. All my investors' money were blown. I had maybe 300 dirhams in my account. 3 defaulted payments on my car, which was gonna get repossessed. And this is what all entrepreneurs are ashamed to say. And this is what I love voicing, is these things that people are ashamed to talk about. Nothing was going for me. I had one employee who had all his family with him in the UAE, all expired visas, because I couldn't afford to renew it, and a fine of 5,000 dirhams that he had to pay to leave back home. And he had 2 weeks left in Dubai. That was in closer to New Year's. That was my New Year's of 2021. January 2021 comes about. I sit with my developer. I get his visa thing sorted miraculously. And I tell him, listen, just before you leave, I just want you to launch my business for me. I just want to tell myself that I launched it, that it's on App Store and Google Play. And I had one Bilal, from the owner of Uptown Rent-A-Car. I'll never forget the favor he did for me. He is like, you know what? Put me as a host, take 80 cars, put them with you. Where all the other companies, they saw me as a threat. They're like, no, we don't want to work with you, you know? So he took that leap, and to this day, like a big brother to me, you know what I mean? He put these 70 cars. I launched the business. It was 1 week before my Jimmy, my lead developer, was supposed to fly out to leave. That was January 21. At this point, my own parents were telling me, maybe you should find a job. Maybe you should, you need to survive. You need to get yourself out of this shithole. And there's nothing more painful than hearing that from the people you love the most, right?
Yes.
It's, well, I've 3 years of my life. I'm in a hole so deep, I don't even know how I'm gonna come out of. And I can go on and on about the thoughts that you get at this point.
I feel you, man.
It's like your life is done, man. Your life's done. It's like, man, but I was like, what if? And you know what? That's when it was like, my mind went from, in that process, my mind went from, what are people gonna think of me, to I don't give a shit. I gave it my all. I don't care what people think of me. The minute I changed that, mid-January comes about. 4 days into launching my business, I was on Al Khair Road driving my car. Ping, 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 booking. Four bookings on one day.
Wow.
The first one, her name was Noor. I'll never forget her. She rented a Mini Cooper. I got an anxiety attack. I started shaking, my friend. I swear to God, I started shaking. I couldn't drive anymore. I was blasting music at the time. It's trying to get my mind, I went from the furthest left lane to the furthest right lane, stopped, put my hazard on. I was like, shit. I called Jimmy. I was like, Jimmy, we just got 4 bookings. He's like, what? I was like, yeah, we just got 4 bookings. And I was like, 3,000 dirhams value. I was like, what?
Okay.
And I stayed there for 2 hours and a half in my car until every customer got their car. And everything was good. It was a successful transaction.
Nice.
And brother, I cannot begin to explain to you the joy, the sheer joy, man. I started tearing up, like real thing. Started tearing. I was like, wow, man. Like,
I deserve it.
wow. Like, I never, ever expected this to happen. I was actually now slowly going into maybe I should apply for jobs. I was there, man. So, long story short, and tell you how God works, you know. If other people to call it a higher power, I call it God. What ended up happening, my friend, is I got these bookings. 3 days later, I got a call, and obviously, I was meeting with investors every day. For the in 9 months, everyone was telling me mobility is not a safe space. With the lockdown, we don't know what's going to happen. It's not safe to invest in these businesses. And it's valid.
You could understand
Very
it. Yeah,
valid.
yeah, yeah.
I get a call from a friend who I haven't spoken to in like quite a moment. He's like, yeah, are you still looking for investors? And at this point, I was so burnt out. Like, I was going to tell him no. I swear to God. I was like, yeah, man, sure. Who do you have? He's like, yeah, I have someone, Russian background, successful man. He was in oil and gas, and now he's pretty much investing in startups. And he just moved to Dubai, and he's looking to move his family to Dubai. And he'd like to meet you. I showed him your picture deck. I was like, okay, sure, yeah. I called Greg. Greg was one of the friends who invested. He's my CFO now. He's 35 years old. He's British. He basically balances what I don't have. So I had no corporate experience. He has all the corporate experience. So he does all the contracts, labor contracts, holding company setup, LLC setup. He fills that gap, and obviously he handles all the finances in business. So I was like, yo, come with me. I may need you. I was like, yeah, sure, we'll go. We went to the Hilton in JBR. We sat in the lobby, my friend. I pitched the idea for 2 hours to him, and I promise you, he did not flinch, nod, smile. The poker face on him made me think that this guy just wanted to leave. Like, he was sick of me talking, you know what I mean? And then I'd stop myself and ask him, is everything clear to you? He's like, yeah, keep going. So, wrapped up the meeting after 2 hours, and he was like, you know, at this point, I'm not impressed by your business anymore. I was like, here we go again. He's like, but I'm impressed with you. He's like, I've seen people try to start this concept, but I don't know, something about you that tells me you may be the right guy. What do you want? I told him I'm trying to raise $500,000 so I can take my business. Like, in a very broke, I was so cute, man. I was such a cute little soul and innocent, and like, you know, like just paying attention to everything I was saying.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm trying to get $500,000 to launch this business. This is what I built. This is the app. Look, it's online. It's on live. We already got 4 bookings. And he was like, okay.
4 bookings.
Yeah.
All right.
So, long story short, he's like, yeah, you know what? Give me 3 days. Let me think about it. I left the meeting. I talked to Greg. I was like, brother, yeah, it's just one of those. We're never going to hear from him again. And he agreed with me. He was like, yeah, it's okay. We keep pushing. I looked at him. I was like, keep pushing, bro. I have nothing left in me. Like this, that's it. 2 days pass. On the 3rd day, 9 a.m., I get a call from him. Okay, so listen, I have a proposal. I've thought about this. I need you to speak to my finance manager. She's in Italy. She has a few questions. We jumped on a call. We had a call with her. A few questions here and there. Boom. That same night, he sent me an offer. And he was like...
Was it what you asked for?
He offered $1 million instead of $500,000.
Wow.
But the equity that he asked for was... a little more than I was comfortable.
Got you.
My Greg was like, take it. I was like, I looked at him. I was like, brother, brother, if you went through what I went through,
you wouldn't.
It's very easy for you to tell me take it, because obviously at this point you have to understand he invested his money. So for him, it's like I just want to make sure my money's safe, right? And that's when it was the first kind of like confrontation. I was like, brother, I'm the one who got to this point. Not you, brother.
That's where you are. Okay.
I'm the one who got us here, brother, not you. So from here onwards, I will decide. Anyways.
Did that affect your friendship?
No. Alhamdulillah, like today we're like, he's a brother I never had, honestly. And here's the thing, people who are meant to stay in your life will stay, man. That's the thing. People who are not, just let them go. He always fought for his place in my life. And that's what I appreciate, regardless of how bad things got, you know. So I see his email. I call him. I was like, Mr. XYZ, I really appreciate your offer, but I think we need to schedule a call so I can tell you I have a counter offer. He's like, what's your counter? I was like, let's set up a call. The counter was really either he says no, and that's it, or he says yes. But it was like
no room for negotiation.
20, 80 you say, because obviously it was much less than what he asked in terms of. Not much less, but significantly less. So I told him, listen, I'm just going to say these two things. I have worked so hard to become the first licensed entity of my kind in Dubai. And whereas I appreciate your offer, I'm not going to sell my soul. Because if I agree to this offer now, later down the line, I can tell you, my brother, that we're going to have arguments and conflict over the fact that I feel like I deserve more. So to avoid that, this is my counter offer and this is final. And brother, my heart was beating faster than
I can imagine.
than you can ever imagine, man. You know what I mean? It's like having 10 coffees. And it's like I was saying it and I was talking to someone who was double my age, worth a lot more than a lot of people I know, a very successful man. And I was like, whatever. And we were on Zoom and then the call went silent for like 10 seconds. So I thought the line disconnected. I was like, hello?
He just hung up.
I was like, hello? He was like, yeah, I'm here. You know what, Omar? If it was anyone else, I would have said no. But it's done.
Wow.
Bro,
Close.
tell me a man that I've known for 3 days, wired me the money on the 4th day in full and told me we'll worry about the contracts later, go build the business that you want to do.
Wow.
So when you start encountering these things in your life, that's when you know there's another side.
Yes.
And that other side, the harder it is to get there, the bigger the reward. Yeah, so you have to program yourself. It's like, okay, shit's going bad. Great. There's something cooking. And the worse it's going to get, the closer I am. That's it.
I
it,
believe
you know
in
what I
that.
mean?
I believe in that 100%.
Yeah, so I took that, didn't waste time. February was the first traction month officially. I had an office, I had employees. I had a,
February 21.
February 2021.
Okay.
From February 2021 to this date, we've done 12 million dirhams in sales,
Wow.
140,000 downloads, 100,000 registered users, 15,000 completed transactions, so completed bookings.
Mashallah.
We signed the integration with Europcar. We're available in 117 countries. We're the first startup to successfully complete an integration. Now we're available in 117 countries with 150,000 cars. And then obviously most recently we signed the contract with the RTA to become the government's choice of a platform to represent the UAE's mobility, vehicle rental mobility channel. So we are going to be the app in the UAE that's going to be backed by the government to provide mobility rentals across the entire UAE with the support of the government.
Wow. Mabruk. Congratulations.
Yes, and needless to say that I'm not going to tell you these 3 years were fun. There were absolutely, I can tell you that these 3 years building the business was one cycle of my life. You have to understand that your life is seasons and cycles.
Yes.
You know? So that cycle was done. I then went into the cycle of building the business and taking it live. There was a lot of joy building it, but the problems never went. The problems were there. Now the problems were even more significant because it's a real business. Customers, hosts, you're taking people's money. Like, this is a business now where you're going to be held accountable for everything. So I'm not going to tell you and especially when obviously 2023 was a tough year for me because the VC space was unstable. All the investments were allocated into AI projects. The political sanctions, the political issues that were happening. VC space, the investments from 2022 to 2023, 50% decline in investments.
Yeah, 21 was the peak.
Yes.
It went down and hoping 2025 it should get back on track.
Where it's getting back on track this year. Yani, I'm already seeing it, but obviously what's happening is that the amount of startups that have a differentiating factor, like basically it became saturated to the point where only a selected few with distinguished differences are being invested in. You know what I mean? For me, I knew this government contract is that differentiating factor because they only select one company. So I'm only company in the UAE that they select. You know what I mean? So
Why you?
To me, if you ask me, and I'm not trying to sound in any way as overly confident, but I paid the price to kind of get to where I'm at here. You know what I mean? So like 2023, I did everything that I needed to do. Why me? I can't answer that question. I mean, that's maybe destiny, I guess. But what didn't change in me is, believe it or as delusional as people may call it. But March, when I applied, I already told my shareholders we're gonna win. I swear to God, you can ask them.
You had that feeling, huh?
I knew I was gonna win it, and I knew because I understood my life, man. I started playing with life in their terms. You have to understand. You get to the point where everything that happens, like now, if this tips over and falls, to me, it's like, what is there? I have to investigate to see why this tipped and fall. Is there something I have to pay attention to? Do you see what I'm trying to say? I became
Gotcha.
so aware of my surrounding, of the people around me, of things that happened in my life, to where I was like, okay, this happened for a reason. I have to now think of why it happened. So this is how I live my life. You know
So
what I
you
mean?
started overthinking, basically.
Not overthinking, analyzing. There's a difference. Overthinking, you're not getting to a direct answer for yourself.
Exactly.
Analyzing is you're dissecting something. I'll give you a quick example. For example, when it came to the point, my 2023 I had to run organic because obviously it was uncertain whether or not I was gonna win this contract. But then little things happened here and there that I started analyzing that gave me more assurance that I was gonna potentially win the contract. I'll give you an example. One of the representatives would call me and ask me for a certain document. I go like, why would they be asking me for this document? They would only be asking me for this document if this is something that's progressing on their end. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Little things like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Signs.
Exactly. Signs. So my whole life is paying attention to signs. And that's how, like I told you, it's a mental game because problems will never stop. It will always come. And it's just how you look at it, how you deal with it, and how you overcome it. That's what really gets you to the destination.
I'm personally very touched by all of this, to be very honest. Like, I never expected this, and it's been a pleasure to meet you for the first time. And to be honest, I didn't expect you to be who you are, to be very honest. And I have a ton of questions, of course,
Yes.
but no, we're not out of time. It's fine. We can just look this. But I have a very important question. I think it's very important for me and the audience to understand here. Now, we understand the 3 phases that you've gone through. And what would have happened if XYZ investor said no on the phone?
Amazing question. You know what's crazy? You told me this. This is what I've been beating myself up trying to figure out the past year. And I have an answer. You see, in life, there is no way, if you set your mind to something, first and most important thing is the intention you set. If my intention is something that goes against the law of good, it's not going to work. So intention is very important because if and I was at a summit the other day, and one of the speakers was like, and he's a revert. He's a revert into Islam. So this is a man who's in his late 40s, 50s, and he was like, they asked him, what is the most important thing about starting a business? And his answer was in niyyah. That's the most important.
The intention.
That's the foundation, bro. It's the intent. The intent is between you and yourself. That's the beauty of it. I can come and tell you, bro, my intention is so good, and inside I have a hidden agenda. Nothing I do will make me succeed.
Gotcha.
Which is why when I deal with people that I know have a false intention, I don't worry about them because I know life's going to deal with them. I know it. And I'm 99% of the time it happens. You know what I mean? If not 100. So with me, it's there is no such thing as failure. If you go and tell me now, Omar, I'm going to get a gold medal in the Olympics 2026 for running when you've never ran in your life. Brother, you may not get it in 2026, but I promise you'll get it in 2028. Does that make sense? It's failure happens when you fold. And everything that fails, if you see someone failing, they just give up.
It's because they
give up.
Yeah.
There's no way, my brother, and I'm living example, living proof, there is no way you can fail if you don't give up. Because it's either going to end in two ways. Like you asked me, what if the investor said no? He could have said no. But if I kept on going, I would have met someone else who would have invested.
But you mentioned that up until his phone call, you were starting to consider getting a job.
Correct. And I think there's a unseen force that works with you. You see, there's a saying in Arabic, in our religion, it says, لا يحمل الله نفسا إلا وسعها.
Yes.
Which means God will not burden you with more than you can tolerate.
100%.
Correct? And that is the law of life. It's like He will keep pushing you and stretching you until He sees that khalas, it's for Him. He has to step in. And that's how I live my life, brother. I live my life to where I do my best, and when things are not happening for me, I know I have to stretch myself even further. And I keep stretching and stretching and stretching to the point where I'm laughing at my situation. I'm like, wow, how am I even here, bro? I'm like laughing. Literally, I'm not even pissed. I'm not sad. I'm laughing. And then, subhanAllah, man, just doors start opening. You know what I mean? And when doors start opening, you're like, okay, now I know. Like, you're aware of what's happening, man. It's just a cycle. Once you go through one cycle, you start relating a lot of things, but on different calibers. So, for example, with me, all the signs that I wasn't really aware of, but eventually I became aware of building my business. I see similar ones, but in different situations now, but they kind of remind me of what I need to do. Like, okay, this is what I did there. This is what I need to do here. You know what I mean?
Use
different
it as
setting.
reference,
It's a different setting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a game, man. Listen, Anna, I was in a podcast the other day. I told them if I could explain it to you in the easiest way possible, is if I give you a game, any game, there's career mode and there's the free play.
Yeah.
99% or 90% of
They
the
go for the free
people
play.
are doing free play.
Yeah, it's true.
Career mode, rarely do you ever, because it's hard, man, I'm stuck on this level. So when you say I'm stuck on this level, it's you're not working hard enough to bypass it. Someone else did.
True.
Someone else finished the game.
True.
There's no difference between you and him. It's just that you gave up and he didn't. And you opted out to free play. Now you're playing free play with everyone else. You're an NPC.
And you think this is life.
This is life, my friend.
Well said.
And your career mode is your purpose. Your free play is giving up on your purpose.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well
Makes
said.
sense? Yeah.
Well said. Well said. Now, two things we need from you.
Oh, yeah.
An advice for first-time entrepreneurs, and the second is an advice for existing entrepreneurs.
Okay. Advice for upcoming entrepreneurs. I mean, it's very simple. It's you will never fail unless you give up. Chase your dream. Don't listen to people around you. People who are telling you not to are people who are putting your life as obstacles to make you believe less of yourself. Everyone on this earth is destined for greatness. Just how brave are you to chase that purpose of yours? So that's the advice for the young entrepreneurs. For existing entrepreneurs, I'm pretty sure they are walking the path, and I think I'll just share one of the things that I personally struggle with, and I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, is the loneliness that it comes with, because it becomes almost impossible for people to understand you, understand your journey, understand where you're at. What I can recommend and what's helped me the most is basically really developing a friendship with yourself. I talk to myself a lot. I whenever I get these discouraging voices that kind of hinder my journey, hinder my path, I start talking to myself, even if it's in the mirror, and telling me, listen, you got this. You're the best. Self-love that's verbalized between you and yourself gives you a sense of motivation that you would have never guessed you had in you just by talking to yourself. Simple as that.
Well, Omar, thank you very much for today. We really appreciate having you on board.
Thank you.
And it's been honestly a pleasure getting to know all about your journey and all the lessons that you've gone through.
Thank you so much.
I've personally been educated on so many things and so many aspects, and I'm sure so must have the audience. And for that, we'd like to thank you, and it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me, Abdurrahman, and I hope you guys enjoy the content. And honestly, amazing individual in front of me sitting. And Abdurrahman, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, man. Pleasure.